I'm going to bring up a clip of Whoopi Goldberg saying stupid things on The View, but this one is pretty important because we're leaving an era of unipolar American power where we have been the absolute dominant economy, military force in the world for 30 plus years. And a lot of people don't understand what that means and what that diminishing power could potentially look like with a rising China. They don't recognize what the rest of the world is like. You get all this anti-America, anti-West sentiment is kind of bubbling up in the United States. And this statement by Whoopi Goldberg kind of crystallizes the problem that we have in this country with just a lack of understanding, a lack of historical perspective, and absolutely a lack of appreciation for the freedoms that we have in this country. I'm bring this clip up. I want you to take a listen to what she's saying, and we'll go from there.
Literally said it was up to the Iranian people.
Yes,
it is up to them.
And that's why I am saying that it is the same.
I can't lose again this year.
When she's saying that it is the same, what she's saying is that it's the same for a black person to live in the United States in 2025 as it is for oppressed people in a place like Iran, which is utterly ridiculous. Anybody who can think knows that that's not true, but let's get back to it here.
For their difference is not good, whoever does. It's not good. So that's why I said you weren't saying what I heard was not what you meant.
I think it's very different to live in the United States in 2025 than it is to live in Iran.
Not if you're black.
Not for everybody.
Not if you're black.
Guys, don't go to Tehran. Do not anyone at this table.
I'm going to go back to the beginning here real quick as well.
We have been known in this country to tie gay folks to the car.
I'm sorry, but where the Iranian regime is today in 2025 is nothing.
Okay, so here's the problem, and here's what people don't understand. We have bigotry, racism, every bad human instinct exists everywhere in the world. Okay? We have it here in the United States, absolutely. The problem with Whoopi, the problem with what she's saying here is now she's not recognizing the difference between in the Middle East in a country like our ally, Saudi Arabia, Iran, these nations where they will take a homosexual person and chuck them off of a roof because of who they are. That's not just some random bigot. That is a matter of policy in a theocratic state. That is how they treat people. It's not a random crime to unalive a woman because she's walking down the street by herself there. It is it's viewed as a horrific crime here. It's not viewed that way there. The ideology is different. So because bad things happen to people here as a matter of outlier, as opposed to bad things happening to people there as a matter of policy, and understanding that the decline of Western values should terrify people who are out there advocating for women's rights, for minority rights, for gay rights. Those things don't exist in China. China doesn't care. Iran doesn't care. Those ideologies, the things that you're protesting for, you are attempting to get your thought processes that we need to get the United States to live up to its ideals. The ideals of equal treatment under the law, the ideals of individual liberty. Those are the Western ideals. We can talk about failures to live up to those ideals, but that's the core belief. That's what underpins our society. That's not what underpins their society. Equality under the law isn't a thing there. That's not something you could say that we as a society are still striving towards that. And we can have arguments about implicit bias and systemic racism and all these different things. We can have that argument, but at the core of that argument is the idea that we are striving towards living up to Western ideals of equality under the law. They don't have that ideal. The ideal of equality under the law is foreign to them. It's not the way they view the world. It's not the way they view humanity. There's an ideology that says you are, because of who you are, less than this other person because of who they are. And that's an ideological core belief that we don't hold. There are people who hold it, but as a society, as part of our cultural value, as part of our cultural identity, that is not a belief that we hold. You have to ask yourself in after World War II, and at this point, I'm not talking to people who advocate for communism in this country because I don't even understand that. Had the United States been in an incredibly weakened state, had Russia, had the communists developed the nuclear bomb first, and had the United States been in the weakened position that the Soviet Union was in, if those positions had changed, and we were the incredibly weakened nation because we had been invaded, and they were the nation with the nuclear bomb, do you think that we would be free, or do you think we would have spent the last century living under communist rule? We would have spent the last year living under communist rule. Western civilization developed through colonization, but modern Western ideology, modern Western ideals are not colonial anymore. Communist Russia, communist China are being held at bay because they don't have the power to conquer the world. And if they did, they would. And all of these arguments about equality and rights and, black people and gay people and trans people and all these different arguments that we're having would be largely irrelevant because there would be no baseline underlying ideology where we have to fight to get to this equality, this magical equality that you think exists everywhere else in the world. This is the only place. The fall of the United States represents the end of your struggle in reverse, where your rights would be reverted back to whatever they were 100 years ago, which is essentially non-existent. That's the problem. That's what people are missing. And that's where people like Whoopi, who say dumb stuff like this, lead people to a pretty dark place. And I understand that America's history is covered in warts. I understand that we have tons of issues in this nation. But the foundational principles of Western civilization are so important to the world that we have to think about, as opposed as I am to engaging with Iran and getting involved in this conflict, the idea of a unipolar world with China at the center should be terrifying to people. I believe that it is in the best interest of the globe, the best interest of the world, for the United States to maintain its position as the unipolar power in the world. I think the best way to do that is through diplomacy, free trade, economic engagement, and not getting involved militarily and getting involved in these foreign military conflicts. But it's naive to think that it's not important for the United States to maintain a sense of supremacy. I don't understand how to get that through people's heads or why people fail to see that. And it's the insulation probably that's provided by the privilege of being born under the shield of our technological prowess, our geographical isolation, our relative wealth compared to the rest of the world. All of those things conspire to spoil us and criticize what we have, which we should. We should always be trying to move society forward, but always we should be moving society towards the ideology of individual liberty and equality under the law, not this Marxist, communist equity thing that, like, it's been tried. It's at the core of some of the worst human disasters in our history. Anyway, I'm straying off the point here. The point is that the idea that an African-American woman can say that, yes, it's the same for a black person living in the United States as it is for a woman living in Tehran is nuts, especially a woman who has the amount of wealth and privilege that a person like Whoopi Goldberg has. She is famous. She has fans, white and black. I don't understand where that comes from. And at the end of the day, I guess in conclusion, I would say that the biggest thing here with Whoopi is probably that she is well aware that this is going to go viral for her. You get a ton of clicks. And so it's good for the show. I don't know if they have an online presence or a podcast presence. It's good for them. Publicity for them is good. Controversy is good for them. That's what they strive for. And it's a really sad testament to modern media that we're willing to say these horrible things, these incredibly untrue things that are damaging to our culture, to our society, to the psyche of young people who consume it. We're willing to harm them in order to elevate our own fame. I think that's a pretty sad thing, but I'm hoping, I guess at the end of the day, I hope she's just a bad person trying to get clicks than a person who genuinely believes the insane things that she is saying in this segment. So I'll leave you with that.